My name's Tim. I started my career at the age of 18 as a computer field service engineer, literally driving around in a van, fixing what was early PCs and mini systems down to component level. Did that for about 7 years. It was a great experience, and from there I moved into the software side of things. So running help desks, delivering support to end users, rolling out networks, delivering networks. And then eventually from there, I basically built my own consultancy, a break fix consultancy. So I would have a portfolio of small companies whereby I provided IT systems for them, network support for them, had a team of engineers around the UK. I did that for a while, sold that business. And then I moved into Europe because I wanted to expand what I was doing, and I was looking at taking going to the next level. So I had the great opportunity of working for a company in Luxembourg for 2 years, where I did software and hardware rollout for satellite launches, and eventually moved into television interplay out systems and TV streaming. And that was fantastic as well. I moved to Australia in 2008, and over here I started my career really in what I class as a proper job. So working with companies that were going through management restructures, realignment of technology, and I did that for a few years. But in parallel, I started a company called XREF. So I'm the co-founder of a company called XREF. We are a pre-employment referencing platform. We're ASX listed. And I've grown that from 3 people to 100 in 4 countries over the past 10 years. So how did I get to where I am now? I left school at 16. I don't really have many sort of formal qualifications. I just knew that I wanted to go out and work, really. I knew that I was inquisitive, and I like taking things apart and putting them back together. So I managed to get myself on a training course to learn how to fix computers. So this first part of my career is really learning to fix computers, learning how to deal with people, traveling all around the UK, and really just building my skills up in an industry that I absolutely loved. From there, there was a natural progression where you get fed up with crawling around under tables, I suppose, and I was walking into these companies, and I could see that my logical troubleshooting skills can lend themselves to actually helping internal systems. So I worked in companies doing help desk and working with them to understand how to roll out platforms and software and how to get the best out of it for their business. So, first career was hardware, second career was software. And from there I thought, well, actually there's a business in this. So I started purely by chance, really, a company that provided these services is 2 companies, independently, so they didn't have to have their own IT team. So I went from being an engineer to an employee to self-employed and understanding business. So I had to build everything from the way that we scheduled engineers, the way that we needed to get onto all of the software platforms and understand that we were licensed, which is really interesting. But I reached a plateau in that as well, and I had an opportunity to exit that business. And then I went into going to work for various other companies as a consultant. I did a stint in Europe because I wanted to go and work in a multicultural team. I wanted to go into an industry that I'd not been in before because I wanted to see whether I could do it off my own back. And I did that for 3 or 4 years. And eventually ended up in working with a range of large companies and startups. And I suppose the third part of that was away from the technology, where I was working for Benchmark Capital, who are a large US VC company, and I was doing diligence on companies. So I'd walk in, someone would come pitch that this technology does X and we want X amount of money, and my job was to go in and basically kick the wheels and see whether it did what they said they did, and help them get where they needed to do with their internal systems to allow them to scale the business. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. And out the back of that, I had an opportunity then to look at how to raise money, to scale capital, understanding businesses. But one thing that I lacked is that because I never had a formal qualification, as I said, I left school at 16, I never did A-levels and I never went to university. At the age of 30, I went back and did an MBA and That took me 3 years part-time to do, purely because I just didn't understand half the technology that was being used, the terminology. And I found that was a great process. And then really from there is I've just been working in startup world, building my own business, and I'm having a bit of advice. At 18, as a junior engineer, computer engineer, they used to part you up with a senior engineer. My first day on the job, I was partnered up with a guy, and he said to me, the best bit of advice I can give you is treat everyone in every company as an equal. Don't disrespect them and ask questions. The receptionist, the cleaner, the security guard, the CEO, the CFO, or the EAs, all of them are part of that business. And in order for you to understand certain things about the business, all of them will add value. You will find the security guards know more of what's going on in the business than the CEO does. The receptionists know the type of people that go in there. And a lot of people just ignore them. So by talking to them as an engineer, walk in and go, hey, John, how you going? You have the ability to get a connection with them. And as soon as you get a connection, you ultimately, it'll pay out dividends. So I talk to everybody. It's my daughter says to me, why do you talk to everybody? Because I said, I'm interested, genuinely interested. So ask questions. Just because they're the CEO or the cleaner makes no difference. At the end of the day, there's a lot of people doing jobs, and why they're doing those jobs, the value they add to every company is really, really important. The worst piece of career advice, honestly, I don't know. There's lots of bad advice out there. I'm very gut instinct, I'm afraid. I'm a bit sorry about that, because there's a lot of knobs in the world. Can I say that, LJ? Anyway, what did I wish I knew when I started my career? That's a really tough one. Probably really more the financial side of things. As I said, I started in technology, but later on running a business to understand accounts, balance sheets, profit and loss, budgeting. That side of it, I think, is good. It helps you in your personal life as well as running a business. But the rest of it, I think, has been an enjoyable journey. I think if you know too much, you sit on your laurels and say, oh, I know all of this. But part of the process I've enjoyed in some respects is getting it wrong and learning and understanding and talking to people. So I would really just say that, the fiscal side of it, because at the end of the day, accounts is accounts, right? Nothing really changes in that respect because you're following a process. So I would say that, yeah. What's the biggest mistake I've ever made? I think early in my career was assuming that someone in a senior position had the answers, and if they said they were going to do something, they would do it. Even though my gut said there was something that didn't sit right, I didn't challenge it, and therefore there were certain instances where I was left as the scapegoat for someone else's promises that didn't execute correctly. There was an example many years ago where a company I was consulting with had bought in one of the large 4 consultancies to do a piece of work. It was backed off to myself to deliver it. However, I had no control over the deliverables and from senior management, and ultimately I didn't fight to get enough control over it. Long story short, the company completely made a massive issue, caused a massive outage for multiple days. I ended up having to recover it, and ultimately I took the dressing down because I hadn't delivered it, even though I was not fully in control. So I think, biggest mistake, not standing up for yourself. I think early in your career it's difficult. Now I'm probably a little bit too honest, a little bit too blunt. I've definitely got the stripes on my back, as I say, but I think that's one of them. And I suppose another one would be not asking for the money. When you're running your own business as well, it's like you got to ask for the money. If you've done a job, got to ask for the money, got to get paid, and assuming that everyone will pay their bills, unfortunately, is also a false fallacy. But anyway, we all learn by our mistakes. I think the key to my success is probably backing myself, turning up, doing the hard work, asking the right questions, having a smile on your face. Noticing what's going on around you. There's certain people in certain industries and jobs are there. It's just a job. They're not passionate about it. I think definitely I have a belief in what I do and what value I add in my industry and in the businesses that I work in. I think that self-improvement, so ultimately whether it's self-improving my technology skills, I'm incredibly inquisitive, so I'll always keep my skills up. I'll better myself. I watch a lot of, I jokingly say I watch a lot of YouTube videos because I haven't got an attention span greater than 20 minutes, so therefore that's all you get me for. And I think the other side of it is not overcomplicating things. I like to cut through. If you can't explain it to me in quickly or on a one sheet piece of paper, it's too complicated. Life is not meant to be complicated. You need to get in there, get it done, make sure everyone's happy, and deliver it and move on, and do the next thing. So, being tenacious. I also hate being told I can't do something, which is, I think I'm brutally honest, as I said before. And definitely, I think don't accept the status quo. And as I said earlier, I went back to do an MBA. I never had any formal qualifications. I left school at 16. I was told I couldn't do an MBA, so I'm going to go and do an MBA. And there's a thing in the UK called the MBA Tour where they do 20 seminars over the year. I turned up at every single one for a year and told every single university I wanted to go to I was going to go to their university. I ended up getting 4 places. So be tenacious, have fun with it.